Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about conflict and suspense in fiction or your short story. And this is just a basic outline. The exercise works best if you already have a character created and if that character already has a weakness or flaw. So what you see in front of you is just a basic narrative arc, sometimes called a Freytag pyramid. It simply charts the rising level of tension caused by a conflict or problem throughout a story. So at the beginning of our story, we'll find out what the problem is for our character. And you can see some deviation in the arc here because sometimes we slowly find out that problem, and some people like to throw their readers right into a problem to start the story so we know what's at stake. As the narrative progresses, things get worse for our character and the conflict gets messier as more events make it seem more unlikely that our protagonist will be able to resolve the problem. Finally, we reach the climax of our narrative where all the forces that have been opposing each other come out in the open and explode, as it were, with the end of our story being the resolution subsequent to that climax. So why do we like to read stories in the first place? They entertain us. We appreciate the language and the artistry of storytelling. And because when we read a story, maybe we feel like we're in that place that we escape. But how do we keep our readers hooked? By creating well-rounded characters with strengths and weaknesses that readers can relate to, and by giving these characters problems and challenges. A conflict, then, is a problem for a protagonist or group of characters. It can be one person versus another, a person versus herself or himself, a person versus nature or technology. For example, Luke has to rescue Princess Leia, Harry's just got to defeat Voldemort, and poor Bella has to choose between Edward and Jacob. These conflicts, then, are what drive our stories. Suspense is the phenomenon that happens when your reader is rooting for the character that the reader cares about now and feels like is a relatable, well-rounded character, and sees that the character has a problem and wants that problem to be solved for the character, but isn't sure if it's going to be solved for the character. So once your reader cares about your character and sees that they have a problem, your reader will be more likely to keep reading. The reader is now in suspense because the reader hopes the protagonist will overcome the challenge. As an author, your job is to create smaller challenges on the way to the climax to further complicate the problem. In this way, you raise the stakes for your protagonist as the narrative develops. The reader is in suspense, wondering what will happen. Avoid the deus ex machina. The deus ex machina is an unpopular plot device. It means machine from the heavens or hand of God. It's a situation in which the conflict is resolved as if by magic in a way that no reader could have predicted. For example, after developing the conflict and things are getting worse and worse for your character and we have no idea how she's going to solve it, in the last sentence we learn it was all a dream. And then readers feel a little bit cheated. Instead, most readers like to try to guess the outcome of a story as they read. So you want to keep them in suspense but give them subtle clues along the way. Avoid the deus ex machina by giving or planting in revision clues that will relate to the resolution of the climax.